Hi, this is Buzz, and this is a 56 Les Paul that somebody sent me to restore, and I am astounded with how it sounds now that I refretted it, because when I first got it, somebody put this tremolo on here, and they had a Nashville bridge here. They were using the same posts as the original tailpiece, as the original bridge posts, but this was really killing the sustain. It had a really low tension on the bridge, and so after I got that out, I was able to drill exactly where the tailpiece anchors were, and exactly. I could see the original ridges on the sides, so I drilled the exact length deep and got some vintage anchors and studs, and this is I cleaned out the volume pots, and I will get to cleaning out the tone pots when I take it apart again. There's a little bit of pop, but everything works, and there's a lot of hum. And I guess that's normal for P90s. I have a 56 special. I don't have it in this room right now. Okay, so quickly, I pulled out the frets that were only like 0.022 high. They were impossible, and they were all crooked. The action was really high, and it was still buzzing in many places. So there was absolute necessity, and I used Jescar nickel silver, 0.090 wide times 0.055 tall, which is the most popular choice there is. I was able to use the original nut. What I did was I put a thin layer of the nylon nut material on the bottom, and then smoothed it all out, flattened it perfectly so that it's sitting on like a 1/32 thick piece of nut, so that the top of it didn't change at all. Just happened to get it right, and because it's really hard to do that when you're not deepening each individual slot. But anyway, the truss rod works perfectly. See, it has the original logo. Somebody had changed the tuners. I forget what brand they were, but I had to plug them and re-drill them. These are a vintage style Clusons. I don't have the vintage ones on there right now because it's still being worked on. As you see, there's the pot cavity, the original bees, all the original pots. I was able to make a new template off of this instead of the one that I was using before, because after doing some measurements, I found out that there was a couple of things different, like the outer shape of the body, and to make sure that I have the correlation between the toggle switch and they're correct, it was important to remake it, So my pot cavity was a little bit different, and I was also able to make a top carve template. This is the same style template I was using before, but I used a contour gauge, and they were way off. This is accurate. This is the original top carve. There was no alterations on this top carve. It's exact, original, and I have a top carve fetish. If it's not just perfect, I can tell really quick. And I don't know if that's coming out in these angles. If it isn't, I can redo this video later with just the technical aspects of it. I really had set up with the intents to play it, because these are musical instruments. They're not pieces of art, and it would really be purposeless if they didn't didn't sound great, and this one really does. I mean, after I did the refret job, I couldn't believe the difference. The guy killed it. What he did was he put a Roland on there. The previous owner, this shape was cut down to the mahogany, and I had to trace that spot, cut a piece of maple, hot hide, glued it in there, and then scraped and sanded it exactly flush with the top, with no waviness and nothing deeper. You can't see it, but I got it. And I had to plug all the holes, do the same thing from there was other holes from this and from that Tremolo. This was not the original gold paint. I know that's what you're thinking. It wasn't. It was probably redone by Gibson in the late 50s. Maybe it was under warranty, and he didn't like how it was checking or something like that. But because it did look old, but there were telltale signs that it wasn't the original one. For one thing, there was no serial number. It's a dark back. It's like the right color. We have a record of the original serial number, which will go back on there because the owner knew the original owner. He bought it from the original owner. So that's the serial number I'll be using. It has a little bit of flatness to the neck, but it's still really big and chunky, and the perception of the chunkiness changed after I refretted it. Don't be fooled. It does have binding. I removed it. I'm going to put it back on, and I removed it so that I could to do the fret slots correctly, I had to remove the binding. There's no question about that. And they turned out excellent. And I haven't got the action as low as I can get it yet. And I'm playing this through that Fender Bass Breaker 007 7-watt head through this Blockhead 212 cabinet loaded with vintage Alnico Celestion. They're the 15-watt silverback kind, and they're the original cone. And that's a good mate because you can't go by what they were rated at originally because of the years that have gone by, and so 7 watts is about all I want to pump through that pair, you know. And I never turn it up all the way anyway, but it has a unbelievably good sound. But unless I had 4 of them in a 4 or 12, I wouldn't play it any louder than this, because okay, here's the bridge pickup. I flipped the neck magnets on the neck pickup, and it sounded just like I was using humbuckers. You know, it had the Peter Green out of phase tone. I like that. If it was my guitar, I would keep it that way, but I carefully put them back the original spec. You know, for like the Dickie Betts clean tone. You know. Let me clean up the tone a little bit, because that's where the difference between vintage guitars and really good guitars and cheaper ones that don't really sound that great is when you play clean, they sound great and they sound like the records back from the 50s. You'll hit a couple of chords and you'll say, hey, that sounds like this certain old song, and you'll start to learn that song. You know. This amp doesn't have a lot of headroom to it, though. It starts to distort any louder than that. But it's only 7 watts, so. turn the volume up because my first clue as to how good the tone was when I first restrung it and I started to hit the thing acoustically with no amp. It's very loud acoustically. There's a little bit of background noise in here and stuff, but it is. And